Hey y'all, Elizabeth here with Crossing Creeks Farm, and today I'm joined with my husband and our farmer, Shane, as well as the farm cat, Cleo. She always shows up as soon as I hit the record button. So today we're going to be sharing with you guys all about hay. What is hay? Where does it come from? How do we use it? When do we use it? How much does it cost? We're going to answer all those questions today. If you enjoy this, we ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. So let's get into it. Hay. What is hay?
Dried grass.
It's dried grasses. Just like sun-drying fruits is a way of preserving the harvest for the winter, so is hay. It's sun-dried grasses. So during the grass season, currently grasses aren't growing. That's why we're not out with our lawnmowers, right? It's too cold and we don't have enough daylight, so grasses aren't growing. So during the grass seasons, which is typically in this area about April through October-ish, farmers will grow their grasses nice and tall and then cut them, sun-dry them, bale them, and store them away for winter. That's what hay is. So with us having our beef cattle as 100% grass-fed, we have to feed them something in the winter when grasses aren't producing as abundantly. And so that's what we use is sun-dried grasses, hay. How is hay made? Well, I kind of told you a little bit. You grow the grasses as much as you can. Ideally, a hay farmer is getting 3 to 4 cuttings off their fields in a grass season. This last year we had a drought, and so they only really got like 2 cuttings.
Yep.
Thankfully, we were able to get all that we needed stored away in our barns from our hay farmer out of those 2 cuttings. We're very grateful for that. We don't cut hay here on the farm. Why do we not cut hay on the farm?
We don't have any hay to cut.
We don't have any space.
We let the cows eat it.
The cows eat what room and pasture we have. And so we don't have any extra fields at this moment in time to dedicate to hay because it has to be left untouched. You can't rotate your cattle through that or any of your animals through that when you're trying to grow it for hay. So a hay farmer is going to grow it as much as he can during the season. He's going to come along and cut it. You want to tell him a little bit how that works? Because I never really remember all the processes.
They cut the hay with a disc mower or sycamore and wait probably a day or two, depending on the weather, for it to dry. Then they go through and tet it, just kind of fluff it up, flip it over, let it dry some more. And then they rake it into a row, and then they square bale, and then they bale it, either square bale it or put it in a roll.
Yeah, so these are we call these round rolls or round bales. These are not manageable by a person. You cannot pick these up, right?
Nope.
No, so this requires equipment like a tractor with a forklift that will move these for us. Square bales are more manageable by a single person. So a lot of people use square bales because they can lift them without having to have equipment. We typically use round rolls because they're more cost efficient. We do keep some square bales mainly for our horses or a dairy cow, for smaller animals that will waste a huge round roll. Or if we're traveling with the horses, we keep square bales around to take on the road with us because it's more manageable without equipment than these things are. So that's kind of the process. It's cut, it's laid out to dry, it's tethered, flipped around to dry some more, then it's raked into rows, and then it's baled, either a square bale or a round roll. In the spring and summer, and sometimes the late fall, we're looking to purchase and store up all of our hay for the winter, for what our cattle need. How many of these round rolls did we need this winter?
This winter I bought about 250.
So we bought about 250 back in the spring and the summer total to put away in the barn for our cattle for the winter. These average on the low end about $50 a piece. On the high end, they can be up to $80 a piece. Some areas of the country are up to $100, $120 a piece. So for those of you that love to do math, 250 times even $50 is a lot of money to be putting away for the winter. But we do it every year.
Yeah.
So that's a big chunk of cost for us each year to produce our grass-fed beef. Where do we get it from? We have a local hay farmer that cuts different properties in our area, and we contract with him. He does all of our cutting for our farm. We trust him. He gets us stuff that's no spray, so meaning it hasn't been sprayed for weeds. We want the weeds. The cows, those weeds have nutrition to them, and so we're okay with that. And we'd rather have the weeds than the chemicals. So we're blessed to have that resource in our area. But it's very expensive on the hay farmers to make the hay because the equipment is constantly in repair and breaking down, and it's just a lot. So that's where ours comes from. So when do we use it? When do we use it? We're typically using it December through March-ish.
About November through March.
Depending on the year. There's been some years where we didn't have a drought in late fall, and we were able to push all the way to January before we started feeding hay, which was amazing. We hope to get back to that place, because if we can just run 2 to 3 months out of the year feeding hay, it's obviously much more cost efficient for us than if we have to run 4 to 5 months out of the year. So that's always our goal. But typically around December on average is when he's starting to feed it, and then go into spring. Even though the grasses are growing come March, sometimes as early as March and into April, he's still feeding hay. And why is that?
Because it quite hadn't got as tall as I wanted.
The grasses haven't got as tall as he wants. So the cows are not happy about it because they can see and smell the grasses, and they get a little upset with him. But for their own benefit, he holds them off so that the grasses can get some height on them. So we don't want them to just be a couple inches. We want them to be 4, 5, 6 inches, as tall as we can get it, so that we have a deeper root system and the grasses have a better chance of producing more throughout the season for us. So that's kind of why we extend our hay feeding season a little bit more. And sometimes we can be cold in April, and that'll stunt the growth of the grasses. So we try to put enough back to make it through those months. So how do we use it? So do we just drive one of these things out there and plop it in the pasture with the animals and just let them have at it?
Nope, roll it out.
No, we roll it out. Back in the day, I can remember when the boys were little. I'm sure you can remember, and I'm sure somewhere I have a video of y'all hand rolling them out. And sometimes the bulls would hop in and help you out.
Mm-hmm.
But we couldn't afford an unroller, and they weren't really even popular at the time because we were unrolling before other people, as it's gotten more popular. But I can remember you guys pushing. I mean, these weigh how much?
These are about 900 pounds, somewhere in there. 900
pounds to 1,000 pounds. And so, yeah, hand rolling those out is a lot of muscle. So I can just remember our boys were much littler, and you guys rolling them out and trying to work with the land when it went downhill and all the things. And the bulls love unrolling them because they can scratch all over them, and they just have fun with that. But now we actually have an unroller. We've had that for 3 or 4 years. We got that, and it's been amazing, very beneficial to us.
Yep.
So he's able to just hook up one of these round rolls to it with a side-by-side or the four-wheeler and drive it out to the fields wherever the cows are, because Shane is still doing intensive rotational grazing even through the winter. He's moving those animals every 24 hours. And so he takes it out to wherever they are. And then we unroll it. Why do we unroll it?
Okay, buffet line.
It's a buffet line. We like to call it our buffet line.
Yep.
We make a buffet line for the cows. We don't want them congregating around one round roll. And what happens when they're just standing all around one roll, especially in this kind of weather where we've had snow and rain and it's really soggy out there in the ground, they're just going to trample, and their hoofs are going to dig into that, and it's going to become a mud pit all around where that hay was. So by unrolling it, we have a couple of things that are happening. We have created more even disposition of it. They go out and eat all that they want. They get to spread out. They're not congregating on top of each other, digging into the ground. They're also not running over the littles, because we have babies weanlings that's still out there, calves from last year still out there. So they're not getting trampled. They all have space to spread out and get theirs. There's other reasons that we do that. It's not just for mud and erosion prevention, but also this hay has dried grass seed in it. And so that dried grass seed is going to fall into our grasses and our soil. It'll lay dormant for the rest of the winter, but then it'll actually help to reseed our pastures some, coming up with good things like orchard grass and Johnson grass and ryegrass and whatever the mix is in here. And so that's another reason why we do it, is it really helps us to spread everything out, which a big part of what we want to do is also spread their manure out. Their manure is our organic fertilizer. And so all those things are happening while we do that, while you, not me, but you are out there in the cold.
Yeah.
Unrolling that hay is to help with those things, right?
Yep.
It spreads out their manure so that all manure is not in one spot. It's more sanitary for them. So our cattle do not come into a barn for the winter. They stay out. They're built to be outside. It is better for them to be outside, to continue to be in rotation. If we have them in one barn, we have created a lot of disease respiratory issues. They're breathing in the pneumonia of their urine, and they're in their feces. They're walking more in their feces, and it's just not sanitary for them. So we leave them out in sunshine and what grasses are out there, and fresh hay every day and fresh water. And they prefer it. They do not like they don't like being inside. They would not have that. Those mamas would not have that. So that's how we feed hay. It's what we do with hay. It's how we get our hay. Hay is really important and a vital part of our farming practices.
Yep.
So that's all about hay. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will bring you another farm update video next month. Be sure to subscribe so you can check that out. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. Yep. Are you getting to the end of your word limit for the day?
They're about frozen.
Yeah, we are about frozen. My fingers, I am like losing the end of my fingers even in these gloves. It is cold. It is cold today, as you can hear our sniffles.